Yeah, I already glued it once. This meeting of the Anderson Township Board of Zoning Appeals is hereby called to order. This board was established pursuant to Section 519.13 of the Ohio Revised Code by the Anderson Township trustees to provide administrative relief to any person or entity adversely affected by the Anderson Township zoning resolution. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Haber.
Here.
Mr. Sion.
Here.
Mr. Halpin.
Here.
Mr. Shekels.
Here.
Mr. Nye.
Here. Thank you for coming to this meeting of the Anderson Township Board of Zoning Appeals. Please be aware that this meeting is audio and videotaped and may be carried live on television. Let me take a moment and outline our procedures. A summary of the appeal is going to be presented by staff, and then the appellant will be able to present its case. The board members may then ask questions of the appellant. After that, all persons supporting the appeal will be permitted to testify after being recognized by the chair. When those persons supporting the appeal are finished, those opposed to the appeal will then be permitted to testify. All persons wishing to testify, whether for or against an appeal, may only do so after being sworn in. And I'd like to take that opportunity. If you are going to testify tonight, I would ask you to stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you. All persons testifying will be limited to 4 minutes unless a board member requests additional time. All testimony is going to be given to the board only. No comments, side questions, anything are to be directed to the appellant or anyone else in the audience. Okay, are there any other changes to tonight's agenda?
None.
I have no changes, so I will approve the agenda versus unanimous consent is the term, so we will approve those based on unanimous consent. Item number 2, approval of the minutes of August 3rd, 2023. Were there any comments, questions about the minutes? Were there any objections to approval?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved. Okay, then number 3, consideration of case 19-2023 BZA, a variance request for an addition at 7800 Clover Ridge Court, and I ask that staff present their findings.
Thank you, Board. As mentioned, this is case 19-2023. The applicant is all decked out for the property owners, James and Catherine Getzel. The location is at 7800 Clover Ridge. The zoning is A2 residence, and the request is to allow for a covered patio size 18 feet by 18 feet 6 inches with a rear yard setback of 22 feet, where a 35-foot rear yard setback is required per Article 3.4C2 of the Anderson Township zoning resolution. So the proposed development is proposing what's deemed as an addition, as the covering for the patio would be attached to the structure. So there's an existing 16-foot by 23-foot deck there that would be removed and would be replaced with the 18-foot by 18-foot 6-inch patio cover, and then there would be a total patio area of 18 feet by 36 feet. And the covered area of the patio would have that rear yard setback of 22 feet, and as stated, 35 feet is required. Some history on the property. The house was built in 1986 and purchased by the current property owners in October of 2008. On December 16th of 1997, a zoning certificate was issued for a 4-foot split rail fence located in the rear yard, and on September 5th, 2023, all decked out, received a notice of refusal for their application for the addition, as the 22-foot setback came short of that 35-foot required setback. Here's a property map showing 7800 Clover Ridge. Here's an aerial of the property. The topography. Here are images of the property itself. You can see our sign there. This is the rear yard, so you can see the existing deck currently in place there. You can see the greenery in the rear portion of the property. There's further imagery of the current deck there.
As you've got a picture on the deck there, I have a question. Is the deck conforming?
Correct, yeah, so since it's open to, there is no covering above the deck, it's considered a deck which doesn't have to meet that 35-foot setback. So the deck is conforming currently. It's just once you add that covering that's attached to the house, that's when it becomes an addition and needs to meet the site development standards of the primary structure.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Here's the letter that we can reference if questions arise. These are the 3 pages from the letter that was in the packet that you all received. Here's the proposed that was in the submitted packet as well. And here's some existing pictures that they took as well. This is an example of something similar to what they would like to do on the property. And then here's the site, well, the layout that they would like to do. And then here's the site plan that they submitted. There you can see the 22 feet, the 25 feet, and then it does meet rear yard setbacks as it doesn't extend past the side yard setback, or the side yard requirement for the primary structure. So for variance findings, staff is of the opinion that the variance is not substantial. Neighboring houses on Clover Ridge and adjacent houses on Bruns Lane all have setbacks currently of 60 feet, many cases more than 60 feet. 7800 Clover Ridge is an exception. It has a 40-foot setback currently. So if there were an addition, the only way for that addition to become compliant is if the deck or the covered area was 5 feet in length. The proposed open, yeah, so if the proposed covering was open for a patio, it would be allowed. If it were unattached, so if there was a little bit of gap between the house and the structure that's proposed to be attached, if there was a gap and it was not attached, it would be compliant. It would be viewed as an accessory structure. The essential character of the neighborhood would not be altered. Adjoining properties would not suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. The proposed patio and roof would be replacing the existing deck in the rear yard. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of governmental services. The property owner's predicament may not be feasibly obviated through some other method other than a variance. The location of the roof covering is considered an addition because it's attached. If it were unattached, it could be located 3 feet from the property line as opposed to the 22 feet that they are currently have in their plan they submitted. Staff is of the opinion that the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed by granting the variance. While the addition does encroach on that 35-foot setback, there's no other feasible way to construct the addition other than detaching it. With that, they would be able to go up to 3 feet from the property line without imposing. So this would be less imposing on adjacent properties if it were approved. So these are the standards to be considered when weighing variances per our zoning resolution. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Any questions for staff?
Just to clarify, I think you touched on it earlier, the uncovered portion, the paver patio, that is all permitted, no variance required for that.
Correct, yep.
Would you go back?
Sure.
This one, right there.
This one or
This one, right? No,
this one?
that one. I've always been in favor of these additions. when they're open. And in my experience, we looked at them in a couple different ways. And the bottom two paragraphs are what I want to just kind of throw out here and discuss. Because the purpose of having a required rear yard is to keep the rear space open from property to property. And so the second paragraph to the end there is somewhat substantiating the fact that we're going to put this addition because they could put an accessory structure located 3 feet from the property line. And again, I'm all for this, and yet they can still put an accessory structure 3 feet from the property line. So I'm interested in the board's position as to when we have a paragraph like that that substantiates this addition, is then do we preclude an accessory structure elsewhere on the property? I thought I did it pretty well.
I've had a tough day.
Okay. Does the second to the last paragraph substantiate the addition, because they could put an accessory structure 3 feet from the property line, preclude a future accessory structure 3 feet from the property line? Okay, then to me the paragraph's moot. Okay? Because I think in the next paragraph, and I think this is very important because of how we've approached this before, then the last paragraph, which I think is significant to us, which is there is no other, because of the 35-foot setback in the rear property, there's no other feasible way to construct an addition to the property, and that makes sense to me.
Well, the feasibility would be just have a short construction.
Right.
So
5
it
feet.
is feasible, you just would not have much construction.
Right.
Yeah, and as far as the open nature, I know there's a I can't remember what subdivision it is. We've had this issue on multiple houses.
Right.
And we've always conditioned that it has to be an open structure, we can't go back in
Right.
after the fact.
And enclose it.
the structure.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I seem to remember another case where we had a similar situation. Or I don't recall, but I know we didn't consider that the same situation, that you had that structure, in this case, addition, but then, and I don't remember if we limited any other accessory structures in the back.
I don't remember that subdivision in particular, we didn't know.
I'm not talking about this particular subdivision. I do, might be.
Well, on the other subdivision where we've had multiple of these on the street, we've not put that addition on.
Can I just suggest that unless you want staff's feedback on this, we get the rest of the testimony in and then have this discussion?
Thank you. Thank you for that. Would the appellant like to come and present their case? Please come to the podium, name and address, and present the case regarding your variance.
Hello, my name's Jessica Hagan. I'm with All Decked Out, and I am here with homeowner James. We were hired to construct a new outdoor living space for this family. Yes, they do have a deck presently. The deck is, I think, it's been there for quite some time. But one of the biggest issues was that they were not able to, although it's quite green in the backyard, there's lots of greenery, they were having issues, as you could see with the picture of the existing deck, with sun. So they were not able to really enjoy the deck, on top of the fact that it is past its life and definitely ready to be rebuilt. So we began to look at options of other, ways to give them some shade. So ultimately, this structure was really something they dreamed up and came to us with a majority of the decisions already made. But I think it is something that makes 100% sense for them. And I tried to capture the other neighbors in the pictures, but really both neighbors on both sides have the exact same outdoor living space, very similar at least, with the open air addition of a roof. And again, I'm wholeheartedly on the same page that putting a roof structure at the back of the home, it will benefit the homeowners the most, but it would also not impede on the other property lines. It would give the least amount of, impediment against the other neighbors, because it's really not going to go outside of the footprint. In fact, it'll be a little smaller than the deck that's there now. So really, it was a space that is much needed for them so that they can actually use the outdoor living space with their family more often. I think outside of that, everything has really been covered. I would love to answer any questions that there may be. The last page of the slide 5 that I showed on that last page really was placed there so that you could get a true understanding. We didn't happen to do renderings on this project, but these are two extremely similar projects, minus the fact that they don't show a fireplace, which will be constructed on the side of the roof, but it will be within the same boundaries as the roof itself, so it won't impede out further away from the house or anything. Ultimately, it's going to add value to their home and the neighborhood because it's going to be a gorgeous new outdoor space to update the home and allow them to continue to use it.
Questions?
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to mention, if you go to the property layout in the cul-de-sac there, the properties most affected, to the left and to the right, in addition to the one directly behind us, they all enthusiastically support this. They would have been willing to be here tonight if required. I did see the letter on Friday, didn't think it was necessary, but thought I'd bring that up as well.
Could you give her name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry. Jim Getzel, 7800 Cloveridge Court.
Questions?
For the homeowner, do you understand what Mr. Haber was saying about, like, the purpose of some of the regulations here is to maintain kind of an open space in the backyard, and by attaching this as an addition, it's better for that purpose than it would be if you just took a, 18 by 18 thing and put it 10 feet off your house, which you could do as of right without a variance, but that would be terrible for the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So the question that he was trying to get to, and that I think we'll talk about as well, is, well, since you're not doing that, as a condition of the variance, should we preclude you from also doing that? Like, if we grant this variance without any unusual conditions attached, you could then put a second identical structure right next to it, detached from the house.
Yeah,
do you have any plans to do that?
No, what I would say is we never plan on enclosing this. First of all, we like our outdoor area. The thing will be set up with large fans and to make it specifically for an outdoor space. The property line, there wouldn't be much space there to do anything more. If ever another structure would be put on the property, and my wife probably would never want to go for this, it would be a shed potentially in the irregular portion of the yard that really is not in that area. If you see that, it kind of goes quite a bit to the lower portion of that. My wife does not like sheds, so I can't imagine that happening.
The rest of the yard is pretty well set up with a playground and like space for the kids to run around. So the way that it's being utilized, at least now, it's not really.
And the other thing with
wouldn't make
the
sense.
neighboring property in the rear having that 60-foot offset, there is a lot of space there still between the properties, and it's rather open.
When, ever I visited the site and walked around, there is a nice amount of vegetation that screens
It
in the
does.
back. Would it impact you greatly if we put a condition that you maintain similar vegetation?
We would probably like to add more.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, but if a 35-foot tree died, we wouldn't expect you to put a 35-foot tree back in it, but something
you know.
There was
grow
only
that.
one plan to remove one plant, and that was.
It's already gone.
Actually, it's on the sideline, and it was only to make room for the fireplace. So it was like the middle center bush on the left-hand side of the structure.
Right. No, it is well vegetated, screened.
So much so I couldn't capture great pictures of the neighbors and their structures.
Anything else? Thank you, Bud.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Is there anyone who wants to speak in favor of granting this variance? Hearing none, is there anyone who wants to testify in opposition to granting this variance? Gentlemen, are we ready to go into?
I move that we close the public hearing on this
Second.
case.
We got a motion and a second to close the public portion of the hearing. Please call the roll.
Mr. Haber,
Aye.
Mr. Sion. Mr. Halpin.
Aye.
Mr. Shekels.
Aye.
Mr. Nye.
Aye.
Thank you. Comments from anyone?
I'm in favor. I think there are three things we need to consider whether we want to add or not. One would be maintaining of the vegetation screening that's in the rear property line, that it be an open structure. So, per the plans and specs, the plans aren't dated, so any motion would just have to reference the plans as submitted because they're not a dated set.
But that it would remain open.
Yeah, it would remain open.
Okay.
And as far as the shed or the other outbuilding, I'm not sure what to do with that, because if they wanted to put a 10-by-10 little lawnmower keeper in the back corner, would that be precluded? And if we preclude any additional structures, would we restrict their ability to do that?
Well, we have,
Yeah, I know, but I'm just asking the question.
based on, and Mr. Shekels, if you could bring up the site plan, I think it's rather telling, especially with Mr. Getz.
Gensel?
Getzel, thank you. You know, you said on the bottom, you know, there's quite a bit of area down there that if they put a 10-by-10 or something down there, you know, it's, I think the irregularly shaped lot adds that ability.
I don't want to, if we say no additional, you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
I don't want to put them in a box, which means they can't go rid of their shed, it's a hardware store, put a different lawnmower.
Right. So I would be okay, number one, maintaining the vegetation, number two, remaining open, and leaving it at those two.
I'm good.
Anybody else?
I'd say two things. One, on the vegetative screen, I'm not even sure I'd necessarily require it in this case, kind of given the rest of the layout. The other houses are kind of far from it, but I don't feel that strongly about it. It is close to the property line, so I understand why you want to include that. That's just my thought. With respect to the accessory structures, we talk, it feels like every month, how it is theoretically possible for someone to fill their yard
Yeah.
with accessory structures. It's never happened.
Right.
So let's not overthink it. I think
Okay.
you know, given the size of the lot, the shape of the lot, the distance from the lot lines to the other houses, I don't think this is one where it's necessary to impose any additional restrictions.
Okay.
But otherwise, I think it, you know, won't substantially alter the character of the neighborhood. The variance is not substantial on its own. Spirit and intent would be furthered by granting it, et cetera, so I would grant the variance.
Yes.
Just to note that on the plans that you submit, or the submittal that you guys received, those were not dated, but we do have them dated. It is September 15th.
September 15th?
September 15th. Do I hear a motion? Can we have a motion?
Okay. I move that we approve the variance in reference the plans dated September 15th that were submitted, the staff report, And two conditions, that they maintain similar vegetative screening, not vegetarian, and it remain an open structure.
Started within a year. Pardon? Started within 1 year. please.
Yeah, start with 1 year, finish with 2.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion to approve the variance with some conditions. We also have a second. Is there any other discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Haber,
Aye.
Mr. Sion,
Aye.
Mr. Halpin,
Aye.
Mr. Shekels,
Aye.
Mr. Nye.
Aye.
When might they be able to come pick up documentation? Okay. Tuesday, Wednesday? Your paperwork will be prepared by next Wednesday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, item number 6, consideration of case 20-2023, a conditional use request for a short-term rental facility at 1433 Wolf Angle, and I asked for staff to present their findings.
Thank you. So the applicant is Darcy Gurel and David Carmack, the property owners. The location in question is 1433 Wolf Angle Road. The zoning is C residence, and the request is a conditional use to request a short-term rental facility at the premises designated at 1433 Wolf Angle Road, per Article 5.4 I-15 of the Anderson Township zoning resolution. The proposed development, the applicant is proposing to operate a short-term rental in an existing single-family residence. The specific use of the property would be for a quilting/knitting retreat experience, which will be hosted or advertised, which will not be hosted or advertised on any short-term rental platforms, and the applicant has not proposed any changes to the exterior of the property. The home was built in 1957. It was purchased by the current property owners in July of 2023, and there is one permit on file, which was issued on June of 1996 for a 12-foot by 26.5-foot deck, and there are no zoning code or property maintenance complaints at the property. So here's a property map of the property in question. Here's the aerial. It is of note that it is next door to green space, which kind of explains, and you can see the existing vegetation is quite substantial in that area.
That's to the left.
To the south of it, yes.
Okay.
Here's the topography map, so you can see it slopes pretty significantly to the south and in the rear portion of the yard as well. Here's photos that we took of the property. Here is the submittal that you all received, the letter from the property owner. Here are the house rules and the expectations that guests would have bestowed upon them. Here's images from the from the applicant, and the site plan as well. So the conditional use findings. The proposed use and development would comply with the spirit and intention of the zoning resolution and with district purposes by meeting the conditional use standards. The short-term rental would not have an adverse effect upon adjacent property or the public health, safety, and general welfare. The applicant has a house limit of 12 people at the property, and the owners will be responsible for maintenance of the home and landscaping. The house does sit back about 100 feet from Wolf Angle, is located east of Anderson Township green space, north of a wooded vacant lot surrounded by trees, a mature tree line between adjacent properties. The short-term rental will respect natural, scenic, historic features of significant public interest. The applicant has not changed the exterior of the existing residence, The applicants have indicated that landscaping, lawn, and areas surrounding the house will be maintained by the owners. And there are existing security cameras at the property. There's a doorbell, and then there's a floodlight camera as well. And the granting of the use will not impact governmental services. The conditional use is in accordance with the following areas of the comprehensive plan, including that it follows the goal and initiative in the housing chapter of the 2022 comprehensive plan. Anderson Township is home to diverse housing options to meet changing demographics and market demands, encourage the development and redevelopment of a variety of housing styles and densities in the appropriate areas of the township. This property is designated as a single-family resident use on the future land use map. Staff feels the proposed short-term rental is consistent with this use classification. Additionally, staff also believes that the proposed short-term rental for a quilting knitting retreat will provide unique opportunities for locally owned properties and businesses to attract a new customer base. So here's the short-term rental criteria for conditional uses. It is found that they are compliant with all of those criteria, including for the parking not being permitted in an area defined as the front yard setback of the existing zoning district. The vehicular use area shall be located and designated so as to minimize impact of the neighborhood. The parking is limited to the driveway and the garage. There's a list of standards and restrictions that guests is made available to the guests. The use of the property is for a quilt and knitting retreat only. The applicant is not putting it on Vrbo or Airbnb. The applicant has used anti-vibration tables for the sewing machines, and the property is surrounded by a lot of vegetation, including with the Anderson Township green space adjacent to it. There are no proposed changes to the existing structure, so there's no or you have exterior alterations of the existing structure. No changes to the lighting. The applicants state that they will send a letter to property owners within the 200-foot radius of that property with their contact information listed. So if there are problems arise, people will be able to contact them. There will be no meals served on the premises. And then there is an emergency plan that is provided to all guests, which include police, fire, local hospitals, and the property is also equipped with your usual first aid kits, fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, and staff could get a copy of that if so needed. So as you saw there, the standards to be considered when looking at short-term rentals is here as well as on the next page. And then standards to be considered for special use zoning certificates. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Questions? I have two.
Sure.
That last item, the emergency response plan,
Mm-hmm.
you said you you have not received a copy.
We do not have it at the moment, but if the board would so choose, we can get a copy of that.
Okay. And then the other one was, it says no meals will be served.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, from your point of view, does that mean they go off site or there's no commercial kitchen?
Such as like in a hotel, meals are provided. I would believe it would operate as if any home where you would prepare your own meals.
Gotcha.
Or you could choose to go to a nearby restaurant.
Okay.
Being by the Anderson.
Thank you for that
Yeah.
clarification. That works, yeah. Anything else, gentlemen? No? Would the appellant please come up to the podium, identify yourself, name and address, and present your case?
Yes, Darcy Corral, and address 1433 Wolfangle. We do not live at the residence currently, though, so our current living residence is 310 West 12th Street in Covington, Kentucky. As stated, we are looking for a conditional use for a short-term rental. This is not anything that will be listed on Airbnb or VBRO. It will not be publicly listed in that way. It is specifically for a quilt retreat and knitting retreat, either or. They can mix or be either. As in regards to noise, vibration, any of that, we are well surrounded by trees. We're actually planting additional trees. We've reached out to, I'm sorry, I forgot her name, but the green space coordinator here at Anderson Township. Suzanne, yes. I've actually already had conversations with Suzanne about the additional trees we'd like to plant, and she was fine with all of our suggestions. And it's not for noise. We actually just thought that it needed some additional old growth trees and some hardwoods. The anti-vibration tables we have are Herman Miller tables, and they truly cannot vibrate. We've tried everything on them, and the fastest we sew, we still have not gotten them to vibrate, which is actually very good for the quilters. They hate vibrating tables. The sewing space is actually only in the main living space, which if you look at the front of the house is this, yes. So that is the sewing space. The kitchen, we won't be providing any catering. They can bring their own food. Because this is so well placed, I have actually been told by my survey of people who do a lot of these quilting retreats that many of the people will end up eating out. Usually these can be located in places where they can't go out. So the cookie place up by First Watch has actually already been specified and discussed and gotten back to us that they have these, I don't know, I don't eat cookies, but some sort of amazing cookie. So already I have quilters that are very excited about those cookies. So we have actually kind of already put that inside. We did send a letter to the neighbors. We have had one reach out to us. The neighbor, if we're standing in our driveway to the right, I believe that is south. Her name is Sally. She has already contacted us, letting us know that she thought it was a great idea and was only sad that we won't be living there full time. So, all right, do you have any questions for what we're planning?
It's a 4-bedroom house, and the proposed cap is 12. That is
yes.
more people than we normally see in a 4-bedroom house. Can you explain that?
The primary bedroom is exceptionally large, and we were able to put a queen-size bed and 2 twin beds in there comfortably. One bedroom has a set of bunk beds, and that's how we were able to do that. So we had 1 bedroom with 4, a set of bunk beds. There's a pull-out couch also.
Okay. Can you just tell us a little more about quilting or knitting retreats generally?
Sure.
It seems like a community that you're active in.
Yes, and I did provide a link within the letter that was submitted to one that is located in Loveland called, I believe, the Loveland Retreat or the Retreat. And theirs is run, they Airbnb it when they don't have retreats planned, which is not our intent at all. It's a space for quilters or knitters in this case, and there are other crafters that do different ones, to get together, and usually it's over anywhere from 4 to 7 days, and they bring all of their equipment, place it in their space, and quite literally quilt. My family does it as a family event, and we work on one single quilt and start beginning to end. So we come with a pattern, and we do beginning to end and end the weekend with a full quilt. Often people will actually come and work on their individualized projects, and they like to book these because they get away from home and they have a dedicated space to work on their craft. And that's what they're looking for, not being at home where you could be distracted by anything else going on. It's not just popular here in Ohio. I have family that does it in Virginia, and they actually rent out an entire camp. We have a popular one in LaGrange, Kentucky, and part of the reason that we looked to open one is because we can never get into it. It's consistently booked. So they are quite popular. The Loveland one, we were able to book out a space, and we needed to book it a year in advance. So it's a very, I guess, energetic community of crafters that are just looking for a dedicated space to work. And I'm not joking, some of them won't sleep. They will quilt till 2 in the morning and then be up at 6 and at it again. So, But they're not loud, they're not partiers, they don't do anything really crazy. They mainly just quilts and, yeah, there's probably some laughing, lots of silly stories, things like that, but you're not looking at people running around the yard doing anything crazy.
May date myself, but there's no Rosie Greers that you've come across?
No,
Okay.
no. No, we do have a relative on mine that likes to hit the fireball a little bit, but just makes her sewing a little crazy, nothing bad. We don't let her out of the house.
During my research, or during my preparing the staff report, I did reach out to the city of Loveland, and I can't remember the lady's name. She works in the zoning department there, and before I even finished my question to her, she knew exactly what I was talking about at this example you provided, and I asked her questions, and she stated that staff in Loveland absolutely love what they have there. What it does, it brings people to the community, and it allows those people to use local restaurants, things like that. So they're very happy that they have something like this in Loveland.
One more question. I think you said in your letter, two more questions.
Yes.
GE designated, someone print this at work, is that all that is?
Yes. I apologize, I was on my work computer, and I work in a closed space, so it has to designate it. My apologies.
No, my question was, I think you said that you eventually intend to live here.
Eventually,
Is that right?
yes.
Do you have a horizon for that? Do you know how long you intend
Well,
for this to go? Is it
we talk about retirement there. Our house in Covington is a tall brownstone, and we won't be able to climb all those stairs forever. We're both in our 40s right now, so it's not necessary. We're at least 15 years out, I would say. My husband absolutely adores this house, and when
house.
it is, and when he saw it go on the market, he didn't initially just think, oh, quilting retreat. He actually thought retirement home, but he really can't break me out of my house right now. I like where we live in Covington. So this is where we would like to retire. And anything that we have been doing to the house, such as, this bedroom we can put the 4 beds in here, and look, eventually this could be ours. And I say, no, I don't want this bedroom. I want that bedroom. So what furniture would we keep when we retire here? The discussion is very much, what would we do when we retire here? So that is absolutely our plan, but probably not for a good 15 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you. Anybody present want to testify in support of this conditional use request? Hearing none, is there anyone that wants to testify in opposition? Sir, will you please come to the podium, state your name and address?
Gentlemen, Mackenzie, my name is Dennis R. Lengel, and I live at 1684 Wolfangle Road. The owner has a business very similar to what she proposes here in Loveland, Ohio. When I saw the sign mentioning the zoning commission meeting tonight, I did an internet check of the application and so forth, and I have about 4 things I'd like to bring up. The first thing was the consent of the owners to inspect the premises is dated September 13th. A photograph with the consent form reflects a sewing machine, quilting tables, all placed into the residence quite prior to this evening's meeting. Actually, today's October 5th, and that was 23 days ago. Additionally, tables for sewing machines were observed and furniture and so forth. Furniture I can understand, but tables were being moved into the residence on Saturday, September 23rd. Again, well prior to this evening. And my first concern when I read this was, sounds like a done deal. Even though it's very unlikely. But certainly the owners of the home felt confident. That was my first concern. Reading through the application and the consent form and so forth, I asked myself, what is conditional use? What is a short-term rental? The owner's right. Our long-term goal is to retire here when it is age appropriate for us to do so. And that was just addressed momentarily ago. My question is what is age appropriate? Is it 65 plus or is it 6 months from now? Where is the guarantee? The retreat doesn't go forever and may not go forever. The consent form and the application reflects that the quilters can be a little nutty sometimes, but rarely loud or boisterous. Maybe so. I don't have difficulty with that. But what if they're not? How is the Anderson Township going to resolve the matter? Parking. Participants will be a maximum of 12. 12 cars cannot fit in this driveway very easily. They'll be backing out onto Wolf Angle Road, and particularly at 1433 Wolf Angle, there's a dip in the road there and a curve. And in my opinion, it looks like a very hazardous place, particularly when people are trying to jockey cars out. Maybe the one in the garage wants to get out first, and you got 6 cars behind them. It's just kind of common sense. We do not plan to use a service as Airbnb or a vacation rental booking agency. We have our own calendar and our own reservation system. Okay. Yet the owner's request for this conditional use certificate reflects its use as a, quote, retreat and will function similar to an Airbnb. Well, what is it? Is it this way or this way? Doesn't make sense to me. This is a residential C district, and I suspect that means it's for residences. It appears to be non-conforming to the current zoning. Also, what prevents other people from doing the same thing? These are just a few of the things that are of my concern. And perhaps you can address them. I appreciate it.
Any questions?
Yeah, sir.
Yes.
I understand and appreciate these questions, and I think we'll probably talk about and answer some of them when we discuss amongst ourselves. Can you help me understand exactly what your concerns are? Are you concerned about crime in the neighborhood? Are you concerned about property values? Can you flesh out that for me a little bit?
I don't have a dog in a fight. I don't live 200 feet from this residence, 1433.
Are you north of State? You're on Wolf Angle, but you're
Yes, I'm
between State
between their house and State Road, across from the Commons and Anderson Greens, in a house very similar, in fact, designed by the same person that designed their house. Would you repeat your question again?
My question is, what are you concerned about? Like, if this is approved, what are you afraid is going to happen? Like, have you seen you know, are other people renting out their houses that we don't know about and they're just trashing the place, or are they loud, are they boisterous? Can you help us understand?
The answer is no.
Okay.
I don't have a concern about crime in the area and so forth, but I oppose the issue. I oppose the idea because it seems like it's going to be a precedent for other things to happen on the same street. And we all value our property. Do I want a so-called Airbnb or a retreat, whatever you call it, next door to my house? No. If this is a residential zoning area for generally single-family homes, what is this? If it's not a business, what is it? What guarantees do we have that it'll stay a business or not stay a business? We have none. At least not in the writings that I read from the owners. That's how I can explain it. Anything else?
Anything else? No. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else, sir? Would you come?
Good evening, everyone.
Please identify yourself and your address.
Going to do that. Frank Dobmeyer, 1351 Wolf Angle Road. First and foremost, this is a residential area, and the business is being set up in a residential area. Just don't think it's a good idea. This is an opportunity for this to expand. It's going to happen once, and the next person is going to say, well, there's a possibility that we can set up our business in our home. Let's go ahead and try that. I think we have a good system here in Anderson Township as far as the zoning goes, and it's not broken, and we're trying to fix it. So that's one of the things I really don't understand. One of the other comments that was brought up was we do not plan as a service for Airbnb, but there's nothing stated anywhere that says that they won't. Their plan is not to do that. We all have plans, and sometimes we have to change plans. So I'm a little concerned about that. Let's see, and one of their other items was their intent of the property at 1433 Wolf Angle is to be used as short term. Their intent, but that doesn't say that they're going to keep it as a short term. It could turn into long term. We've witnessed where we live several areas that are rental, trashed. One of the areas turned into a drunk house with EMS and fire department and the sheriff showing up once a week. The next one turned into a dog boarding place, trashed the place. When these residential houses go rental, it's a real problem for all the neighbors. Excuse me. And I'm not within 200 feet either. But we're going to see the effects of it. There's no doubt about that. As far as the responsible maintenance of the home and landscaping for the amount of people, water. 12 people, even 6 people. I don't know how many people were in the house before. How many lived there? 2, 3. I know of a couple that lived there earlier. It was just a couple. A lot more water, a lot more sanitary sewage, a lot more electricity. One of the other things is fire and EMS. If EMS is called to that location because of an unfortunate situation, they're going to have their hands full. We have the best around as far as I'm concerned. Back to what I said earlier, it's zoned residential, and we're trying to fix something. The vehicular parking there, as mentioned earlier, there's no way 12 cars will fit in there. And I understand that a lot of people will carpool, not a problem. There could be 6 cars there, 4 cars there. 4 is about the max. 6, you can get 6 in there. In and out easily, not at all. Wolf Angle Road is becoming a speedway. This is going to be a real problem for people trying to get in and out of there. A list of standards were going to be made available to guests. Is it possible for other occupants of Anderson Township to see these lists of standards, even though I'm out of that 200-foot radius? I'd like to see that. No meals will be served. I presume what they mean by that is by the owner. Does that mean meals can be catered? Can meals be cooked there? And the reason I say that is on one of the last pages is that a dishwasher will be made available. All dirty dishes will be placed in the dishwasher and run at checkout. So if a group of people is there for, say, 7 days, how about even 3 days? If there's dirty dishes in a dishwasher for 3 days, that's a problem. That's a problem. Let's see here. I think that's all I have for the moment. Any questions, please?
Not a question, just to address one of your comments about long-term rentals.
Sure.
If they were applying, if they wanted to do a long-term rental, they purchased the property, they would not be here in front of us today.
Okay,
It would not be something for us to consider.
got it. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
You did talk about some other rentals in the area. Do you have any specific properties?
I'd like to chat with you offline about that. Yes, sir.
Well, I would like to hear your testimony about it here today as it relates to
They're
this.
close to my residence,
And you live just off,
1351,
which is,
right across from Anderson.
so I think 61 is the last one on that map. You're just down.
Where's these cursor?
Yeah, that's 1361, so you must be the next one.
I'm one south of that.
So you're saying that you've seen other rentals in the area that have caused some problems?
Yes.
Can you tell us any more about that?
Not at this meeting today, but I'd be more than happy to, yes.
I mean, we're here to take testimony about the
Okay,
effect of this.
yes. 1362, back off of Anderson. Let's see here.
Sir, I need you. Sir, I need you at the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Sorry, fellas. Excuse me. Wolfangle east on Anderson. What's your first left? Washington?
Yeah.
Half a dozen, 3 or 4 houses back in off of Washington. Huge bonfires. Huge bonfires with rather inconsiderate situations. Fire department's been notified about it several times.
Anything else you can tell us about?
Not at the, I can't think of anything else at the moment.
Anything else? No. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak in opposition? I don't think we have anyone. Would the appellant like to come back up? Sure. And add any additional information?
It's been mentioned that the Airbnb site and VBRO, those were examples of sites that are common for this kind of thing. We've specified that we won't be using them because this won't be open to that public. This is specifically done for the quilting knitting community and has to be set up as that. We don't even, the only sofa that's in the entire house is a full-size pull-out bed. So this is not set up for a family to hang out at all. So it's not set up in that way. And we discussed that, I put it in that we will be using our own reservation system because we have bought website space that includes a reservation system that we can use. We don't need to use anything like Airbnb and VBRO. We have set up an LLC, so officially we do have a business. We did not buy the house as a business. We bought the houses with our private ownership. We set the business up so that we could pay the proper taxes for a short-term rental to Anderson Township, to the state, and federally. So that's why we did that. Usually, Airbnb or VBRO would actually take care of those tax situations, but since we're not paying to go through them, we set it up so that we could pay the correct taxes. The parking situation. When we purchased the house, one of the things that the buyer said was that they had several parties, and they've easily fit 8 cars in the driveway. That is not to say we're looking to fit 8 cars in the driveway. They also discussed that anytime they had overflow from these parties, they asked people to park up at Kroger, which is less than about a half mile up the road, and they would cart people back and forth or that sort of thing. They never bothered anyone in the neighborhood, and they stayed off the neighborhood streets. And so they suggested the Kroger parking lot, which has several other businesses in it and is a large parking lot. As for our intent, when we plan to live in it, I'm going to honestly tell you that we would like to retire eventually, but that's not to say that we would sell the house before then, or that my husband and I are in IT, that we would get transferred to across the country. His company's out of Silicon Valley. For all I know, one day they're going to pull us back to Silicon Valley. We have no idea what our future is. We adore this house and have made no changes structurally to it because we adore this house. I can't tell you what the future is. I can't tell you what date I plan to retire. I have no idea. According to my husband, he never plans to retire. He plans to keep working forever, which is why he would like to make sure he can work in the office that is, and he looks around for where his good office space is. I plan on retiring. And so that's been brought up several times. Can our quilters get nutty? Yes. And by nutty, I mean sometimes we will have a cocktail with dinner. And what do you know? We start telling terrible stories about our husbands or our families or, oh my goodness, whatever crazy thing it is. It's usually a bunch of ladies. That's not to say the gentleman can't be there. But it's a bunch of ladies who got to get away from their kids and their families for a few days. So by nutty, I mean we start to tell some not great stories every once in a while. Yes. As for the furniture, we have moved in already. I got a chance to buy Herman Miller desks at an incredibly good price, and they were anti-vibration, and I happened to be in a different part of the country when I did it. I bought them and I brought them back, but I needed the minivan back, so we did unload them into the house, and my husband was very excited to put them together. Does that mean that if you do not give me the conditional use, I can't take them back apart? I will tell you, all it takes is a good screw gun, and I can take them all back apart again. And they can go anywhere else I'd like. They would, honestly, some of them would stay in the house because my family will be sewing there no matter what. Everyone loves the light in that house. So yes, we had already put furniture into it, and we had already started making plans, not because we thought anything was for sure at all, because we're excited about our plans. I think I've addressed most of it. Keeping up with water, power, we have had the house checked out to make sure that we could run the correct power we would need, the correct water, and we've already been paying our power and water bills, and we plan on continuing to pay our water and power bills. So it's no different than anyone else paying their water and power bills. Those will be on me. So there was the water, the power, the parking. I can't think of anything else we need to address. I would say, as Chris mentioned, the Loveland Retreat does bring a lot to the community, and I think we could bring the same to this community. There is a lot of excitement about how close this is to fabric stores in the area, to restaurants in the area, that they don't necessarily need to bring something to make for dinner, that they can order in, or they can go up to First Watch and have breakfast, that kind of thing. So there is a lot of excitement about that. And I never plan on catering any food that is not in my wheelhouse. Do you have any additional questions for me?
Yes. You said that the current property could safely handle 8 automobiles?
That's what the previous owner said. They enjoyed having parties, and they let us know that the driveway itself easily fit 8 automobiles. The picture that I submitted to you, I believe that's 5 right there. So that's 5 without, we actually have a car in the garage right now, So that would be 6 with 1 in the garage. And that is not a long angle lens. That's my cell phone from the end of the driveway. Do I plan on having everyone park in there? I would absolutely tell them that they should probably carpool, which many do, because they come from the same guilds, or, as I said, park in the Kroger parking lot. And carpool.
Should we grant this conditional use request, would you be amenable to a condition that would limit the number of cars parked on site?
Oh, absolutely. The Loveland Retreat can only have 2 cars parked outside, and you have to park your cars at a local parking lot.
Okay.
So that is not a problem whatsoever.
And you believe 8 is an appropriate number?
I believe 8 is what I was told is possible.
Okay.
This
Look, I see 5 right there
This
right
was,
now.
yes, this was 5, and we had absolutely no problems getting in and out. The 2 cars that are parked to the side, there was space next to it, and I apologize. I backed my Prius around my husband's dark Audi and turned around and drove out of the driveway.
Are both garages available for car parking?
They are.
So there's 5, there could be 7 at that residence right now.
There could be easily 7. There are 6 there in that picture because there is a car in there. There's a car in the garage.
Okay, so there could be 7.
Yes, there easily could. And that is also, I had mentioned, where we have the possibility for some handicapped entrance. There's actually a ramp that goes from the garage into the home for anyone who, I wouldn't necessarily take a wheelchair on it. It's a little bit steep for that, but anyone that has accessibility issues. There's also an outside entrance on the right side of the house that can take you into.
You also mentioned about meals,
Yes.
in that it wasn't your plan to provide catering.
To provide any food of any sort. So the kitchen is there for anyone who would like to prepare their own food.
Okay.
But we have no intention of doing catering food. There are quilt retreats where you can purchase additional catering, which they do with a catering service.
Right.
We have no intention of doing that.
Is that part of the rules that
It can be added to the rules. We had, without it being offered, it's not something that they could pay us to do. So if they happen to order 20 Domino's pizzas, I can't stop them from doing that, but we will not be involved in any catering at all.
That's what I heard you saying. You, as the owner, are not
Not-
going to be catering anything to the plant, but if they want to, if the people there want to call Acme Catering and come over and bring food for all of them, there's nothing wrong with that. I've done it at my house. You know, I mean, they're not catering per se. She's not catering.
I'm not catering in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
That's a big difference, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a difference.
Okay. Any other questions, dialogue, Mr. Nye?
Yeah, a couple questions.
Yes.
There was a question about whether you would agree to a limit on the number of cars. I had a slightly different question is, would you consider imposing on your guests a rule against backing out onto Wolf Angle?
Oh, absolutely. I think only a crazy person would back onto Wolf Angle. And we could actually, the single spot that you see, the very first spot next to the tree, we could actually state that no parking can be done there
So you
so
could
that
turn
it's
around.
there for a turnaround.
Around only, yeah.
And so it is turnaround only, and that is perfectly acceptable to us also.
I think that might be smart.
But no backing out onto Wolf Angle. And
Can you tell me a little more about your reservation system? Because I appreciate you saying, we're not putting this on Airbnb for anyone to see, we're not putting it on Verbo. But I know from having done some of these here in the past that those platforms actually offer some advantages in terms of the ability to screen people who either have bad ratings from prior rentals or, looks like, 3 kids in a trench coat looking to have a party.
sure,
Do you have the ability to screen people who might?
we could do normal checks that you would be able to do with anyone. So we could do checks on just internet checks. I don't believe we could do full background checks unless someone submitted to that and was willing to it. Most of these quilt retreats are usually put together by a guild, and so we can discuss with the guild. We would get a full listing of every resident that was coming and be able to keep that list. We could be in contact with other retreats that do the same thing to see if they have had any kind of situations, which are all things that we have also considered. Why we want to avoid Airbnb and VBRO is because of the additional fees and taxes that are put onto the person reserving. We have no intention of putting on additional cleaning fees or an Airbnb charge that goes to Airbnb. For us, keeping this within a good cost range and dealing with that ourselves was how we planned on handling it. And as I said, we're both in IT, so putting together and handling the system that the system that we purchased was not hard.
To piggyback on, on Mr. Nye's question, how are you connecting with this community? I kind of understand where he's getting at, management, but how are you connecting?
We're connecting with local guilds. There are 2 in northern Kentucky and a separate one out of Loveland. So these are specific guilds. We're also connecting with the local quilting shops and going through our local quilting shops. After that, it tends to be more word of mouth through the guilds. I've actually already gotten calls from as far as Asheville, hearing that another one might be opening up somewhere and they're interested in finding out.
So outside of word of mouth, is there advertising in magazines, flyers?
No, quilters just really talk to each other a lot. Yes, and once they hear that a new one has started popping up, that's not a joke. I've actually been contacted by a guild in Asheville, North Carolina, who said that they heard there might be a new one coming up here. And part of that had to do with a family friend who mentioned it at one of her guild meetings, and it spread.
Question about the picture up there.
Yes.
The vehicle that's nearest the road there, is that a single parking space?
That is a single, we use it as a, like I said, a turnaround space mostly.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yes, but my mother really likes backing into it and parking there.
2 more questions, I think.
Yes.
One is, in the past, if we've approved these, one of the conditions we've imposed is that there be someone local to maintain
Mhm.
and to maintain the property and to maintain control. In case
Yes.
things do get out of hand.
Okay.
Someone can show up and give them the heave-ho if
Right.
necessary. Like I said, first of all, do you have plans to do that kind of thing yourself? Or
Yes.
do you not farm it out to anyone?
We are not farming it out. We are the entire crew.
Okay. And if you do get shipped off to Silicon Valley or anywhere else, do you understand that with the condition we've imposed in the past, you would either have to have someone local or lose the conditional use permit?
Yes, and we've actually already discussed with people. We have a friend that works for the water department in Cincinnati, so he understands any machinery that would be there. And also, so we've discussed that if we are out of town, could we hire him as management to keep an eye on it?
Okay. And then the last thing, which I guess I sort of snuck into that prior thing, the zoning resolution has these requirements, which you've seen in staff's report and you addressed in your letter and so on, that says, to get a conditional use, you shall do this, you shall do that, you shall not do this or that, whatever. And in particular with things like measures shall be taken, I'm not so worried about vibration, odor, dust, or noise, but minimize the impact of potential nuisances on neighboring properties. Do you understand that if this is granted and it is a nuisance, then you're at risk of losing your conditional use
We
permit?
absolutely do,
And
yes.
there's a complaint process through the staff over there, and may or
Mhm.
may not come back before this board at some point, but you understand that if things go bad, you lose the permit if you get it today.
Yes, absolutely.
If there is a confirmed nuisance by the township.
There's
Yeah.
there's a set of established
Right,
procedures, but
Yes.
okay.
If
The fact
we
that
go,
you
if we
file
go.
it doesn't mean against the property,
Right.
doesn't mean you get the nuisance.
Of course, of course.
Yes, if there is, I understand that if we get to that point where it is confirmed, that absolutely we could, which is why we would be very particular about who we'd let in there in the first place.
That's my point. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We don't expect some teenagers that are posing as quilters to go in and start to party like it's 1999 or
My
anything.
11-year-old loves to knit.
Then send them over.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, anything else before we close the public testimony?
They did not supply a emergency response plan with this, correct?
They have the House rules and expectations. They didn't submit an emergency plan, but they can submit that to us.
So that could be
You
a
could add that as a
condition. Yeah,
condition.
that's what I wanted to confirm. Okay.
I move to close the public hearing on case 20.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to close the public testimony. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Haber,
Aye.
Mr. Sion,
Aye.
Mr. Halpin,
Aye.
Mr. Shekels,
Aye.
Mr. Nye.
Aye.
Gentlemen?
I'll go first. What the heck? I'm waiting to approve with a couple of conditions. One would be the emergency response plan, obviously, and then to address the parking issue, something to the effect that we'll have to pick a number arbitrarily, by 4, 5, 6. I could easily see 8 cars on there, with the condition that we leave a perpendicular space for marked with some kind of signage for turnaround only, no parking. That's what I would propose as a condition. And other than that, I don't have any real issues.
We get these things about every other month. There's a lot of them in the township. I know we've heard some concerns from some of the opponents here that this is a slippery slope. I think a lot of people don't realize there already are quite a few of them. And I don't think we've yet seen any of these problems materialize. We do get somewhat regular complaints here, in this case and others, about long-term rentals causing problems. I have not yet heard testimony from a proponent, an opponent, or staff about short-term rentals causing problems in the township. Doesn't mean it's not happening, but nobody's testifying about it to this board. And of the ones that we've approved, I don't think any of them, certainly none of them have come back before us for a revocation because of anything like that. I don't think there have been administrative proceedings, just staff proceedings with respect to those. In other words, I just haven't seen any evidence that it's happening. I understand the concern, of course, but I haven't seen any evidence that's happening. So that I'm saying that to the people here, public as much as anything. I think it's, we talk about this all the time. It's something that a lot of people are uncomfortable with because it's different. But we're not here to decide whether it's a good or bad policy for the township. The trustees have told us this is a good policy, here are the conditions you have to meet. And as we go through this, I think they meet all the conditions. Staff's done a good job outlining that in the report. We've heard a lot of testimony, including some specific testimony about some of the things that we had some concerns about. An emergency response plan, for example. One of them, parking, that kind of safety issues being another. Local control is one that we hear, local management oversight is one we hear a lot. So, having said all that, I think subject to the conditions that Paul mentioned, and I think in addition to, Paul wants to, go ahead.
Well, we have this management issue all the time.
We
You
do.
and I've discussed, is Queens close? Is Dayton close? What is that line? Okay, where, somebody can find that for me, and no one can. Because I could get truck in a traffic jam downtown, and somebody from Georgetown could get here quicker. So I think, but that said, that we'll never solve that argument. But if we could put some condition in there that should the owners move more than 100 miles from the location or something like that, they need to engage local management team. And I wouldn't have a problem doing that, the arbitrary whatever miles that is. The fact that they moved to Lawrenceburg, to me, doesn't constitute them moving out of the area. And so it's going to be an arbitrary number, whatever we choose, and I'm, whatever you guys suggest, I would listen to.
I thought staff had a number that they had specified in the past. Do we have a number that they have to be within a
No.
certain mile?
No, and I don't know how we assign that number.
My memory is that we talked about something like 20 or 25
But
miles.
that, I wouldn't buy that, you know, that's,
Yeah,
you can be in
I
West-
think,
you
I
can be
think
Western
Covington's
real
local.
estate.
No. You know, I think for purposes of this, I think what we've done in the past is say, there has to be some local management who can field complaints and address issues, and I think we've therefore, after that point, left it to staff, and if there is any indication there's not local management, someone files a complaint, and, you know, it gets investigated, and maybe they get cited.
Yeah.
And so far, that's worked.
Yeah, and that solves our arbitrary mileage problem.
Right, so I don't think we have to impose mileage on
Okay.
it. Again, you know, we've been doing this for however long we've been doing this now, and it hasn't come up yet, as far as I've known, where someone, you know, tried to have their manager in from Scottsdale, and it just hasn't been an issue yet. I mean, so I don't think we should need to over-engineer it. So all that said, in addition to the conditions we've discussed, I think, you know, no backing out onto Wolfangle, local control, or local management, and,
Parking.
right.
Parking number of vehicles.
Right. So those are the issues. I'd impose those conditions, you know, we'll have to wordsmith it a little bit. But, you know, the trustees have said this is the sort of thing that we want in the township. I think it's a neat idea. I think it's as good a location as any. It's maybe not, you know, we've had a couple of these where the houses were in a tight cul-de-sac. We've had a couple where they're, you know, one was on Little Dry Run, kind of not near anything. This is kind of a middle ground, so maybe it's not the perfect location for it, but I think it fits what the trustees have said we should encourage these things in. And everything I'm hearing, I think we've got a conscientious owner who wants to do something for the community here, and I just would be really surprised if this were a problem.
I agree.
Mr. Halpin, anything?
I'm in favor.
Mr. Syan?
Agreement, the rest of the board?
Mr. Knight, thank you for your comments. Took the words right out of my mouth. In that some of these we've struggled with, based on location, and not only based on location, but use. This seems like fitting what we're trying to do here. So I'm in agreement. Can I get a motion?
Sure. I'll move, we grant, till I've been up since 5:30 this morning, we grant the conditional use variance based on the documents as submitted with a couple of conditions. One is that they complete the emergency response plan. The other is parking, that a space perpendicular to the driveway be signed and reserved and kept as no parking, turnaround only. And I'm going to throw out, based on 2 in the garage, a number of 2, 4, 6, of 8 vehicles.
Would add a friendly amendment. You mentioned that they complete the emergency response plan, but they also submit to the staff, submit a copy.
Yeah, well, I'm like, yeah, right.
I'll second that.
You can add that to the motion.
So we've got a response plan submitted to staff, a no parking sign to keep the one
Right, perpendicular to the drive, yep.
max 8 vehicles,
No backing out on the whole thing, like in the house rules.
no backing. And
I'll accept that as an amendment, friendly amendment.
House rules.
I don't expect you to enforce that. What are the rules?
Yeah,
And then local management,
correct.
okay? We have a motion in a second? Any other discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Haber,
Aye.
Mr. Sion,
Aye.
Mr. Halpin. Aye. Mr. Shekels.
Aye.
Mr. Nye.
Aye.
Again, time frame for any paperwork? Same as, okay. Thank you. All right, gentlemen, any other business coming before the board? So, oh yeah, we can't quite adjourn yet, can we? Well, we'll go on a quick little hiatus.
Thank you, zoning commission. Been very enjoyable. Thank you. Not a problem.
Come see us in November.
Pardon?
We'll be back here in November if you want to come back.
Back in November.
It's first Thursday of every month, we're here.
If I have a comment to interject about businesses in residential, I'll make sure I bring it to your attention.
We'll be here.
Do we have cases for November? So you're just gonna have them show up for no reason like last month? Make us look at it. Got Scott at least, he hung around. What's that? So we got Scott at least, he hung
Oh,
around.
I'm just here in case someone pulls a hammy.
Pulls a what? You ready?
Ready?
You are ready. Yep.
This mentions proposed fence.
Yeah, it's not a fence.
Number
Which number?
Number
Number
one,
one.
It's not proposed.
the variance for the proposed fence.
Oh.
Put addition. Yeah.
Copy paste.
Just making sure you guys are paying attention.
Yep.
They have their existing setbacks are not their setback requirements.
Okay, that last sentence in number one,
Mm-hmm.
moot.
But
Yeah, I don't think we want to use that as a reason
Okay.
to substantiate the variance.
sure.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is the proposed cover to be open?
Yes.
That's a condition.
We changed it for may not to cannot.
Should I take this out as well from the location down? Or if unattached?
Is it copy on this list? Other than a variance. Yeah, it's moot.
Yeah, so take that out.
Just go back to addition. So it has to be an addition.
There it is.
Right. And then that last sentence.
It's not to construct land, you could construct land in a smaller sense, hey, this additional property. This is the term.
Could we go back to 4 for a second?
Sure.
Do we want to say in 4 that in addition, if it were an addition without a variance, you only have 5 feet? We're gonna put that in there. It's just like unreasonably small. So there's no other way to do it than granting a variance. Do you know what I mean? Do we want to cite that in here? Seeing some scowls. Did I remember that right? 5 feet?
That is correct. The current setback of the house is 40 feet, and the setback requirement is 35.
The structure could only project 5 feet from the existing house.
Right, without a variance. And then, like, what's the point? You can't really feasibly do what you want to do without a variance.
Yeah. Nice.
And then the same applies, not construct, the last third line, way to construct, not and, but this addition.
Construct this addition.
This addition.
Yep. Good ads, gentlemen.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Good here.
Motion?
Regards to BZA 19-2023, motion that we approve and journalize.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Haber.
Aye.
Mr. Science.
Aye.
Mr. Halpin. Aye. Mr. Shekels.
Aye.
Mr. Nye.
Aye.
Next.
Where are the conditions?
They haven't had a chance to add.
Maintain local. Yeah, we read a copy of the conditional emergency response. Oh,
Wait, hold on. Let's say, perspective 1. I don't want you just to receive it. I want you to
approve.
approve it. And the emergency response plan you get is everyone run on the screen.
Run like hell, get out of there.
That's no good.
They could approve that too, of course.
That's fine. That sounds good.
Local management.
Yeah, we should probably borrow the phrase from whatever the last one was on the management. We can find it.
Well, on the, you know, on the parking, it's, maximum of 8 cars, including garage.
I'm gonna change that to maximum of 6
Well, not 8.
plus whatever's in the garage.
Well,
If you want 8 outside the garage, I don't think so.
no, it's not what we intended, you gotta actually do it based on the.
Including the,
But if you say 8 including the garage, you put 0 in the garage.
Including-
and 8 in the driveway, you saw 8 including the garage.
Install,
That's not what we want, right?
no. Well, we're counting spaces, we're counting 2 in the garage. Okay,
As a lawyer, I would agree with that. That would absolutely not hold up.
what, parking is,
Maximum, they included 2 spaces in the garage.
that's,
You can put 8 in the driveway and 0 in the garage, and 8 in the walls. Is that what you want?
some
Can you just say a maximum of 8 cars? Period.
I know, you're the only one that would carry that argument, but I'm willing to change.
Hold on,
okay?
just keep going, just keep going.
So,
We'll
go
revise-
ahead.
Let him finish up and we'll revise it.
Parking, let's clear this one up before we go on to the next one. Parking is a maximum of 2 in the garage and 6 outside the garage. Would you buy that? Okay, there we are. 2 space, including the 2 spaces in the garage, are you?
We're just letting them get it down on paper here.
No, we're on that turnaround space.
Hold on, hold on, what are you?
Paul's worried.
Come on, I gotta get out of here. Is Dancing with the Stars on tonight? I don't know.
No idea, neither do I care.
The fact that you know what night is on, this is worrisome. Oh,
John's been back for the back.
I know they've been advertising like crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, they pulled that.
Hey, you and I are qualified. That's right.
Okay.
We can start from the beginning, and you guys can amend as needed.
All right.
Number 1, should that be just intent rather than intention? The second line.
See what you've done to us? We're wordsmithing. Whatever you want.
Is this illegal now?
I know. I'm just kidding.
We're good. Yeah, the proposed short term is consistent. There you go. Amen.
I think we've got a list of them at the bottom of it. I'll bet those are expensive.
The brand that you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Premium.
Yep.
I don't know.
Who designed it?
There are
Yeah.
several of these spotted throughout the township, similar. Yeah.
The
There's another one
builder of the
down
house
Woodbine.
was an architect, so he was the one that designed it.
Man, I wish I'd known that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 2, We don't have an emergency plan.
That's a Z.
Z.
It shall be submitted. It says it shall be.
Will be provided. Shall be. Shall.
Oh, go back up for a second. Go back up. Did they provide the information to all the people? Yeah,
She stated that she didn't send out notifications at homeowner to her.
okay,
She stated that on there.
okay.
Oh.
Here we go.
Okay, there we go. Number one was receive and approve. Okay.
What do we say? Staff receives and approves, subject to all conditions, or receipt and approval by staff of copy. Would that be?
Grammatically, that's better.
Yeah.
Was granted on, so staff receives and approves.
One, receipt and approval by staff.
So, you know, sentence?
One, receipt and
Approval.
by staff of, oh, you can take out copy of the emergency response. Yeah.
Capital S on staff.
Capital staff, I don't know.
No, you should.
Parking is set to a maximum of 8, including the 2 spaces in the garage.
Yeah.
That would indicate to me that there's 6 on site and 2 in the garage.
Yes.
Does you read that way?
Absolutely not.
Yes.
Under that, you can park 0 in the garage and 8 in the driveway and 8 in the
But it includes the 2
two in the
spaces.
garage.
Only if you use them.
All right, I think we're swatting it twice here, but I'll go to your direction, okay?
Yeah.
Mr. Nye, would you please rephrase?
So the following conditions, a maximum of 6 cars are parked in the driveway and 2 cars are parked in the garage.
Parking set to a maximum of 6 cars are packed.
If I drive by there and see another car, I'm gonna call you and say, get over there.
You got packed there. Cars are packed.
Parked. They're
They
packed.
will be packed.
Oh,
No, let's,
there you go.
Parked, yeah.
wait, instead of is set to, how about, some of the following conditions? A maximum of 6 cars parked in the driveway. Take out the R. Okay, now I also think cars are parked in the driveway, not on the driveway, but I think I got outvoted on that.
Yeah, you did, yes.
Did I?
Yeah.
I think we need somebody to write a paper about in and on.
Not it.
Will and
Not it.
Will and shall too.
And they're 2 parked, so when they're parked in a garage, or driveway in a garage.
Yeah, because the garage is an enclosure, so you can park it in the enclosure.
You could also add,
You can't park it on the garage unless you put it on top of the garage.
I agree with that.
you could always add.
All right, we're moving to 3.
Can we just take out the park after 2 though, because otherwise we've got park twice in there once. Maximum 6 cars parked in the driveway. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You're right. Put it back. I apologize. Yeah.
God, I love that Control
Yeah.
Z.
Number, yeah,
The
number
parking.
3, that a space perpendicular to the driveway be signed and reserved as no parking, turnaround only. You should have said yes. Be reserved, you know, or however you want to reserve.
Just out of curiosity, do we go back and make sure there's a sign?
Not us.
No, that's their job.
Anybody?
We had that,
We sign that job to Scott.
yeah, we had that discussion last year at our annual meeting about who
If I
checks.
drive by and I see
Yeah.
someone not backing out of the driveway, is there a number I can call immediately?
Yeah.
Shut the whole thing down?
Okay, so a space perpendicular to the driveway,
Be
comma,
signed.
including
and Be signed and
signage.
reserved. No, put it at the,
It's perpendicular to the driveway.
be signed and reserved.
No, not that either.
Space perpendicular to the driveway.
Be signed and reserved.
Who's signing it?
S-
So does that mean they have to paint a stripe on the driveway?
No. It has to have
Sign is-
sign.
Parking.
The sign is on the driveway.
That's more of
Okay.
a commercial.
No parking, comma, turn around only.
Pretty soon that sign's gonna read a special permit. Should we put in the sign can't be lighted? We're getting a little giddy here.
You need a 4-foot LED sign at the end of the driveway.
If you guys would rather take out the comma and say and turn around.
Yeah, that's good.
No.
All right, on number 4, can you look at one of the resolutions we approved previously for the language?
With previous ones.
Is that doable?
We are currently experiencing some technical difficulties, so we may be unable to do that this tonight.
You can't run in the back here like in a Comcast?
He can run to the back if you'd prefer.
I don't know that we've done that.
Is there a specific
We've
case that you
addressed
had in
that.
mind?
Have we? As a part of the condition?
Yeah, sure. It's like every one of these we do, right? At least last
I
few.
don't remember.
Didn't we, what about, there was one on, Forest, where this came up, kind of like just west of here, is that what it was? Or was that?
I know we had one on Clough, that was no objections to that one.
No, it
One
wasn't,
on
it was
Hunley.
Little Dry Run.
Hunley,
Hunley,
yeah.
which is the same as Little Dry Run.
Yeah, turn.
Yeah.
So Hunley, was one on Hunley a couple months ago? Did you find that one?
He will be right back.
Thank you.
Any comments on number 5?
I think when we get past this, we're good.
For 5, I think what we said was, the house rules would include, go back to Carlos.
Include that.
Nope.
Include no car be permitted to back out, okay.
We currently have received 2. We possibly could have more than that, including a short-term rental.
I was gonna say, any STRs?
They're all fine.
Short-term rental and a fence in the side yard, I believe. Privacy fence, I believe.
And what's the fence, in the fence height?
I believe it's a privacy fence. I don't remember. Both were submitted without prior communication with staff. So.
That's always good. It's good, make it real easy, right?
We have guides on how to apply without.
Does it say don't contact staff?
I don't remember that being outlined. We could have additional cases, though. I think we will get more.
Been following any of the baseball playoffs?
All right.
What do you got?
The property either be locally owned or have a local property manager to comply with conditions, looks like L and V.
Well, we don't have those, so we just, we could eliminate.
B is the
L.
maintain contact, and L is not needed uses.
Are we happy with that language, or would we like to do something else?
B is the applicant shall provide a plan indicating the manner in which the facility will maintain contact with neighborhood residents along with a structured procedure whereby residents' grievances may be filed with the township.
L and V are on your screens if you would.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Well, now that they're on the screen, I noticed that M and S in there are capitalized.
Don't you can't.
So do you want to say that the property shall be, the property shall have a local property manager to comply with conditions L and V? That's what we said here. Mr. Shuckles was chairman.
And you must have approved it. So, because that was probably one of those contentious issues, one of those where we had in the past.
To comply
Yeah.
with conditions L and V in quotations.
That would be.
L and V. yeah.
And that solves the issue.
The only thing I would say about this is that, I think what we said is, as long as you are a local owner, you don't have to have a separate manager. I wouldn't want someone to read this and say, even though you are a local owner, maybe you live right across the river, you got a local manager. I think that's why we put owner in there in that text.
And again, I don't, we'll argue this with cows go home about what's local.
It is adding that sufficient?
It should be on the outside of that,
Yeah.
that quote.
The property shall have a local owner or property manager.
The V.
Are you British? That's how the British do it. The British put
All right.
the house outside. You Americans put it in. Really? Yes!
Numerically, it doesn't, you know, I would do what you do, yes.
Gentlemen, anything else?
Why wouldn't you?
I move that we approve and generalize this.
Second the motion.
We got a motion,
Don't take that off the screen.
order.
I think the period has to be on the outside of the quote. I move that we don't move the period outside the quote.
You don't have a second.
We have a motion and a second to approve and journal our decision. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Quick,
Mr. Haber.
Aye.
Mr. Sion.
Aye.
Mr. Halpin.
Aye.
Mr. Shekels.
aye.
Mr. Nye.
Aye.
So where does that sentence end?
That's right.
Where does the sentence end?
Motion adjourned.
You take up the stroke and what?
Is that parentheses part of the sentence?
We are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.